Let's start with the closer market and how it's going to be impacted with Emmanuel Clase off the list. Did you think that he was going to get traded?
Oh, he was going to get traded. There's no doubt. And Chris Antonetti, the president, Mike Chernoff, the GM, have been working 6 weeks at moving Emmanuel Clase, and they were in a really strong position as sellers. And they decided to sell, and that's the direction they were going. And Clase was going to be the headliner at this trade deadline for them. And they were in a great position because we have so many of the contending teams and division leading teams that were focusing on high leverage back end relievers. The Phillies, the Mets, the Dodgers, the Seattle Mariners, the Detroit Tigers. It's just overwhelming the market, and they had one of the top two guys, and they had been working very diligently to get it. So this is franchise changing. This is a huge blow for them because this was going to be an opportunity to really reset this organization by using him as trade bait here. And so it is just a huge setback.
Jim, I don't know this, but I'm assuming you never had a guy go under investigation for gambling. Maybe steroids, maybe something else gets suspended right before the trade deadline. But as a GM, president of baseball ops, how do you flip it right away? Because like you said, if they were so close to moving him, then all of a sudden he's off the table, right? Do you think we'll move him in the offseason? And how do you flip your organizational thought process if you've been working on this, like you said, for 6 weeks?
Well, I don't think you can think about trading Clase in the offseason for them to put him on administrative leave through August. There has to be significant evidence on this. And I hate to bring up Jonte Porter in the NBA, but he's been banned for life and he pleaded guilty. I mean, Major League Baseball is not going to do this unless there's overwhelming evidence. Now, he deserves due process. So as a GM, it's a great question, AJ. I do think you always have to pivot, right? I mean, like when the Yankees lost out on Juan Soto, they quickly pivoted to Max Fried. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but you just lost a huge asset. You could pivot now to Cade Smith. Whatever discussions you were having regarding Clase, you can now go back and offer Cade Smith instead. You're not going to get quite the same package. You're going to have to take less, but you still have to go forward. Injuries happen in this game where you can have a star player and then all of a sudden he needs Tommy John surgery right before the deadline, and it happens. You mentioned PEDs. You could have a guy gets a PED suspension. So as a GM, you have to roll with it. You don't have a choice. It's unfortunate. It's disappointing. It's a punch in the belly, but you got to pivot always, and you have to move on to the next.
So now let's look at the big picture of the reliever market, JB. What do you have for us? Who do you think is going to be the biggest name of that group to move? Do you think that some of the multi-year team control guys like a Duran or a Jax is going to move versus the rentals, of course, like Orion Helsley?
Yeah, so I think it's going to be a very active market just because that's the goal that these GMs, when I talk to the GMs and I ask what your goal is, impact high leverage reliever is what you're hearing. I just went through the teams. I don't even think I remember to mention the Texas Rangers in that, right, with Seattle. And so that's the goal. And I think, if you're a team in sell mode, you have a chance to win this trade deadline, right? You have a chance to really help rebuild your franchise by trading your back end guy. So I do expect the Twins to trade either Johan Duran or Griffin Jax. I think Duran will go. I think Ryan Helsley has to go if you're St. Louis. John Mozeliak stepping down, Chaim Bloom's going to take over. I think it would be foolish to hold on to him. You're not going to be able to extend him. I think Rafael Iglesias gets moved. I think David Bednar gets moved. I think Seth Halverson of the Colorado Rockies gets moved. The Nationals are trying to move Kyle Finnegan. He probably gets moved. So, yeah, and even Kenley Jansen of the Angels. I didn't get a chance to talk to Perry Manassian because he was ill over the weekend, but I got to think where they are in the standings right now that they need to move on from Jansen too. So there's a lot of relievers out there. There's a huge buying market for them in particular. And I think it's pretty foolish, really, for those teams to hold on to them with the possible returns they're going to be able to get in terms of really good prospect returns.
I love what you just said, Jim. I just have one question for you. When? Is it just going to be a last-minute flurry?
Thursday.
No, I know.
Yeah,
it's just going to be a last-minute flurry. Everyone's going to wait. Best offer, best offer. Nobody wants to jump on this now. And maybe, hey, say you get one of these bullpen guys and they win you a game. Tuesday or Wednesday instead of waiting till Thursday? Why are we waiting till the last
Yeah,
minute? Let's get this going,
yeah.
people.
No, I like it too. But I talked to several GMs yesterday, and they said it's going to be Thursday, and it's going to be a flurry, and everyone's going to pivot once the first guy goes. What the contending GMs and presidents do right now is we have lined up our priority list of who we want, right? So if we had Clase 1, Duran 2, Bednar 3, Helsley 4, for example, I now have to take Clase off the board, right? So now before I make my legitimate final offer for Bednar and Helsley, I need to make sure that Derek Falvey and the Twins tells me I can't get Duran. And I'm going to tell Ben Sherrington, who's got Bednar, and Dramos, who has Helsley, I want your guys. They're second and third on my list. I've got to see if I can get Duran first. So now the Minnesota Twins hold it up. If they want to wait to Thursday to get their best offer, which, with Clase off the board, price just went up, right? If you're selling. So, you're probably going to have to wait for Thursday morning or Thursday afternoon. And when the first guy goes and I didn't get him, I'm going to go to my second guy and try to close that. And then if that doesn't work, I'll go to my third guy and then the fourth guy and the fifth guy. There's not enough to go around. So that's why it gets delayed. I think we'll have a trickle of trades, today and tomorrow. I think we'll see some action Wednesday. But I think Thursday for the reliever market is when you're going to get the blizzard, the tornado, and the hurricane all in one.
Is there a team that's lined up or primed to get two of these guys? You talk about like everybody's bidding everybody. There's so many guys that need high leverage relievers, and there's a decent amount out there. Is there a team that's in line to get two of them?
I think when we say two of them, I think the two would have to be Bednar and Dennis Santana, which isn't really
Okay.
two impact closers. That really wasn't your question, but I think that's possible with the Phillies or Mets. They've had a lot of discussions with the Pirates regarding that. But to answer your question, no, I don't think you're going to see a team that gets Duran and Bednar or Helsley and Duran. I don't think that's going to happen because I think each team's going to do better taking advantage of who's left. I talked to Jerry Dipoto, the president of the Seattle Mariners, yesterday, and I asked him if he was done after making his great trade for Josh Naylor, and he said no. I mean, I'm going all in. I'm there. I'm going. And he's got his owners willing to spend money at this deadline. He has a farm system that's literally loaded. There's no reason why he shouldn't finish the job. And as a former major league reliever himself, that's his priority. That being said, I asked him if he was still in on Suarez, expecting a no, and he said, if I can add impact at third base, I'll do that too. So I think Seattle is going to be very, very fascinating here over the next couple of days here, without a doubt. And I also think the other two teams that are very intriguing right now are the Cubs and the Phillies. And I just bring them up, you guys, just because I'm just hearing the Cubs are going after every top starter out there, right? Edward Cabrera and Sandy Alcantara in Miami, Mitch Keller in Pittsburgh, Mackenzie Gore in Washington, and that Jed Hoyer is obsessed with getting one, and he's got enough in his system. He can snap his fingers and get a deal done there. And Dave Dombrowski, you get the sense, and we covered and watched Dave Dombrowski win a world championship with the Florida Marlins and the Boston Red Sox. We saw him get the Tigers there, the Phillies there, but he really wants to get that world championship ring with the Phillies. And I feel like this is the year that he's gonna absolutely put that accelerator at full blast, get that back end reliever that he wants. And I believe he was in on Clase and Kwan. I thought there was a chance he gets both of them. I won't be surprised, though, if he's the guy that ends up with Duran or he's the guy that ends up with Lewis Robert. That wouldn't surprise me at all.
By the way, Jim, something you just said that I laughed about, Jerry Dipoto making trades like him, AJ Preller, Dave Dombrowski. I mean, it's like, you get a trade, you get a trade, you get a trade. Everyone gets a trade. Boom, 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 boom. Right? I mean, the only one, Jed Hoyer's a little more calculated, but the other ones are like, oh, you want this? Okay, we'll give you that. We'll give you that. We'll trade. Yeah, we'll make trade just to make trade. Sometimes it feels like Dipoto just made trades to make trades just to say, hey, I tried, guys, with trades. But for them to have money, that's big news.
Yeah, I think he's been a little bit more measured, though, over the last year and a half, looking back, right? I think you're right. I think when he first went to Seattle, even with the Angels, he was wheeling and dealing left and right. I think he's learned to be a little bit more measured, going after specifically what he wants. I think he's worked really hard to build this team. I asked him yesterday, is this the best baseball team you've ever overseen? And he said yes. Remember, he had that 98 win team with the Angels when he was GM there. Had a lot of stars back then. But he says this is the best team he's had, and I would tend to agree with him. And I think when you look at it, you really want to finish the job when you're this close, because if you're able to get a Duran or a Bednar here for the back end of the bullpen, and if you were able to miraculously somehow get Suarez as well, you'd have as good a chance not only to win the division, you'd have a good chance to win the World Series too with the pitching they have. And they're going to get Bryce Miller back soon, so they're going to be 6 starting pitchers deep if you include Logan Evans. So I think DePoto has grown with the job there. It takes a long time to learn how to do this job, right? It really does. And the more experience you have, the wiser you get, the less mistakes you make. And I think Jerry has turned the corner that way, but I totally understand where you're coming from there.
FT fam, we have a special offer for you if you go to surfshark.com/foul or use the code FOUL at checkout. Get yourself 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN. It's a risk-free 30-day money-back guarantee, and you can see more information in our show notes. It's surfshark.com/foul. And why should they check out Surfshark VPN, Kratz?
Well, this is a no-brainer because I travel a lot and I'm online. I need to have that security. And as a former catcher, I need someone else to catch my digital threats online. Surfshark's the place.
It's time to take control of your online security. Try Surfshark today and enjoy their 30-day money-back guarantee. Secure your digital world now. Visit the link below. It's in the notes. Start surfing securely. Until next time, stay tuned and stay safe. Check out surfshark.com/foul. Do you feel the same way about the impact starters? And when I say impact starter, someone who you would trust in a playoff game, right? Basically a top 3 guy. Do you think that Sandy Alcantara actually will be moved? Mackenzie Gore, Mitch Keller, it sounded like over the weekend they were still deliberating about, or I'm like, are they actually just trying to get the right price for him?
Yeah, it's a great question, and my answer is I'm not sure. Okay, so what I'm being told by the Marlins camp is they are not going to trade Alcantara for a discounted package. So if somebody wants to pay him as if he was the National League Cy Young Award winner like he was a few years ago, then they will trade him. But if no one's going to offer that package, then they're going to keep him. And they feel like they have figured out some things with him. They think he's going to have a strong August and September, and they would prefer to wait until the offseason when teams understand that it costs $200 million to go get a premium starter, and then they'll see if they can get a better trade package there. So I'm not sure. I don't know if anyone's going to step up and pay that kind of price for Alcantara. I mean, I'd ask you guys if you would. I mean, certainly his last start looked great, but with his inconsistencies all year and coming back from Tommy John, sometimes it's the next year that you're better. So I would think it's more likely they trade Cabrera than Alcantara at this point. Now, in terms of Mackenzie Gore, it's kind of a fascinating position, right? So you have an interim GM in Mike DeBartolo in Washington, right? And that interim tag is huge, right? It's in bright lights, right? With exclamation points all around it, interim. So we know they're trying to move Mike Soroka and Kyle Finnegan, and they probably will. But they're not going to get a return that's going to help the career of Mike DeBartolo, right? We're going to look and say, okay, you got a solid mid-level prospect for each of them, nice going. And that's going to be it, right? But what if he gets the huge package from the Cubs on Mackenzie Gore? What would that do for his career? If he walks into the owner and said, look at the package of these 4 guys that I can get for Gore, and this is what we think of these guys and how it will impact us going forward, that might allow him to get rid of that interim in front of the GM, right? And they're going to hire a president of baseball operations, but perhaps, let's just say they can get Eric Neander from Tampa to be the president of the Washington Nationals. He could keep DeBartolo in theory as the GM, or the owner could make that part of the deal. But I think the only way Mike DeBartolo probably gets to keep this is make a splash at the deadline and show people how good you are at what you do, and don't be afraid. The Nationals are not going to sign Mackenzie Gore long term. He's represented by Scott Boras, and ownership is still upset about the Patrick Corbin contract, the Steven Strasburg contract, the fact they're still paying Max Scherzer to pitch for Toronto. So I kind of find it fascinating and look forward to seeing what happens there.
By the way, you asked me the question. I'll give you the answer, Jim. I would not trade for Alcantara like he's a number 1 because he hasn't pitched like it. And yes, I know he's cheap, but there's no guarantee he's going to bounce back. So no, I would not. But That's just me, and I'm not a GM, and my job's on the line. So I'm just saying. But let's move on to a different team. Let's move to a different team. Kansas City. Why is Kansas City buying? I mean, they're signing Lugo to an extension. Why did they bring in Grichuk if they're – because I just don't see them being a team that can – even if they sneak into the playoffs, can they do damage?
No, I don't think so. They're buying because they don't have expiring contracts. They were in the playoffs last year. They're hoping to get Cole Reagans back at some point. Noah Cameron's been really good in the rotation. If they trade Lugo, they weren't going to get the return that was going to be significant, and they quite frankly think that even if they don't win this year, they can bounce right back next year and be right back in it. And Lugo's been really effective for them. And the way he pitches, there's no reason to think he can't pitch this way for 2 or 3 more years. So I thought it was a really good move to sign him. Now, in terms of getting Grichuk and getting Adam Frazier, they're little moves, but Grichuk can still hit left-handed pitching. Jack Caglione went down with a hamstring. He can fill in there. He's a major league 4th outfielder. Frazier can play different positions. Look, we all want a team to improve by a yard or a foot or an inch, but sometimes a centimeter makes you a little bit better. I think they would like to go bigger if they can. I think they would love to go get a big, powerful left fielder that can impact the middle of the lineup. That would be their goal. They'd like to use their catching depth in the minor leagues to do that. They haven't been able to do it. They're going to continue to try to do it. But without expiring contracts and the fact that you're building around Bobby Witt Jr. and Michael Garcia and Jack Caglione and Vinny Pasquantino, Salvador Perez is still performing, and you still have 2 top catching prospects in Carter Jensen and Blake Mitchell coming. I understand where they are. Estevez is controllable, Urseg is controllable. I think they need to keep adding, and whether it be this year or the next year or the year after, I kind of understand what they're trying to do here.
JB, I got to ask, we've talked about pitchers mostly. Some teams are getting some of the position players. Would you do, because the Mets need a center fielder, Luis Robert Jr. for Mark Vientos straight up?
No, I'd hold on to Mark Vientos. I mean, I really like what I saw with Vientos last September and October, and I can't get that out of my head. I think I saw it, and I think we can bring that back. Luis Robert's kind of a polarizing guy, right? We all love his tools. He's a plus defender in center field. He's got power. He's got speed. He hasn't hit for a couple of years. He's dealt with injuries. He's got a groin right now. I would take a chance on him if it was the right spot to take a chance on him. I think it's risky, to be honest with you. Sometimes it doesn't look like he wants to play. Sometimes I don't know if is he kind of lackadaisical, not focused because he's been on a last place team the last several years, or because there's no help around the lineup to help him, so he ends up chasing pitches he normally wouldn't chase if there was more help around the lineup. Like, I look at Robert and I would say to myself, if I were the Phillies, I would take a chance on him, because I think if I could put his locker in between Schwarber and Harper, I think we'd have a chance of maximizing what he's capable of doing. It would be a good ballpark for him, putting him in a winning atmosphere and see what I can get. But I wouldn't give up too much to get him. I think, if I were to give up a top 10 prospect, probably one that's in the more 6 to 10 range, that would probably make sense, and then a throw in. But that would be about the extent of my interest.
JB, if the White Sox got Mark Vientos for Luis Robert Jr., Chris Getz would be doing backflips down Michigan Avenue tomorrow. Trust me. I mean, I was just in Chicago. The number one question is, are we trading Luis Robert? I'm like, what can they get for him because of what you just said? So if he could get Mark Vientos straight up, he would be doing backflips down Michigan Avenue.
Oh, I know. That's why I said I wouldn't do Vientos for him.
Also, right now, JB, you're not picking up the $20 million option unless he picks it up for the last couple months of the season. If you're a GM of almost any team, right? $20 million?
I'm not picking it up. No.
Right. So the value is
and I'm not giving up that much, as I said. I'm just not. Too many questions with him.
Last one, JB. I'll do it for you. This little pat on the back. The team I think you've hyped more than anyone else this year as just give it time. The Texas Rangers have won 9 of 10 games. So here they come. I want to get the Texas update. Astros just got swept by the A's. The lead has gotten a little tight for them in the AL West. What do you have for us on the Rangers and the Astros over the next few days?
Yeah, okay, let's start with the Astros. I talked to Dana Brown, the general manager of the Astros, yesterday. He was very clear what he was looking for at the deadline. He wants a left-handed hitter, preferably an infielder that could play second or third base, but he would take a left fielder because they can move Altuve back into second base. Some of the names that I'm hearing from opposing GMs as possible fits include Ryan O'Hearn of the Orioles, Brandon Lau of the Tampa Bay Rays, Ozzie Albies of the Atlanta Braves, although my Atlanta sources tell me that they haven't even talked about Albies. Okay, so there's that. And then the other thing is he wants a Game 3 starter for the playoffs. Those are the two goals. They feel great about Valdez and Hunter Brown pitching games 1 and 2. They love having Abreu and Hader in the back end, and they're left-handed setup guys. He would love to get that Game 3 starter. They are going to get Spencer Urquidy off the IL coming up pretty soon. But if he can go out there and get an upgrade there, that's what he would like to do. And look, they're going to have to make moves. I'm amazed that they're still in first place with no Yordan Alvarez, no Jeremy Pena, no Isaac Paredes, Tucker playing in Chicago, Bregman playing in Boston. To think that they're there is amazing to me. But they're going to have a hard time staying in first place because Seattle got way better getting Naylor, and they've got all their pitchers healthy now. And the Rangers, as I said, they were my preseason pick to win the division. Texas Rangers have the best team ERA in the sport by a half a run. That's how they pitch. And they got DeGrom and Evaldi who can pitch games 1 and 2. I text with Chris Young and Brett Boone over the weekend, try to get a feel for where they are. It's pretty clear for me what they're trying to do right now. They want a high-end reliever like Clase, who's now off the board. That would be the first goal. The second goal is they really want a right-handed hitter as well. I'll be surprised if CY doesn't get both of them.